And he said, did you de-roll every night? Did you go back to your hotel and be yourself, be Julian, the TV journalist? And I said, well, I couldn't de-roll because, the hotel would have found out I was a journalist and have spread the word, and I'd have been bumped off. So he said, that's very, very dangerous.
What? Hello, and welcome to Confident Performance with me, Jason Wilkinson. Today, we have an absolute treat in store for you guys. We are interviewing a Mr. Julian Dismore. Do you actually want to take the opportunity to kind of introduce yourself a little to kind of our listeners?
Well, I've had a lot of life-endangering experiences. I've fallen off a volcano called Krakatoa. I fell 30 feet off that. I've been bitten by a king cobra. Luckily, it bit me on the boot. I was an undercover journalist. That was quite dangerous. But I think my nearest life-death experience was in Jaywick, funny enough, making a series for Channel 5 called Benefits by the Sea Jaywick. And the locals some of the locals anyway, weren't very keen to have us there. And one threatened to cut my head off and burn me alive. I had to explain to him that cutting my head off would then make it difficult for me to burn me alive. I did it the wrong way around, and he looked a bit confused and sort of wandered off. But actually, I got quite good friends with that guy. I went to a car boot sale and bought a frog-shaped laundry basket, more precisely, off him, and for £5, and he was very happy. We became friends. So you can turn things around if you play your cards.
Absolutely. So why is it that people generally want to threaten you with execution? / why would you want to put yourself in a situation where the mayor, is that right, of the previous journalist that tried to do that, he was executed by the mayor of that town, is that correct?
Yeah, he had his head cut off. I mean, why people tend to threaten me, and not just contributors, my own team members often. I had a debate with a presenter once on a volcano where he threatened to do unpleasant things to me because I wanted to stop him from saying herpetofauna. I said, please say snakes and lizards. It'd be simpler for the viewers to understand. And he said, I'm not going to dumb down Julian, I'm not going to dumb down for anybody. And it almost came to fisticuffs. But that was because we'd been in a jungle for 2 weeks. We were hot and sweaty and tired, and tempers can get a bit frayed. As far as the Philippine experience is concerned, it was a long time ago. I mean, so it was very, very basic as the hidden cameras. I mean, the hidden camera lens in what was, I was told, a fisherman's waistcoat. But unfortunately, it was actually what journalists wear in the Philippines. So as far as being undercover, it was ideal. And the microphone was disguised as a pen in the front pocket of the waistcoat. And one of the pimps that was running these brothels told me we can get anybody killed within half an hour. We had friends in the local army, local government, local police force. Nobody crossed him. Shortly after that, one of his prostitutes asked to borrow my pen, the microphone. And she almost got hold of it and would have pulled all the wires out. And I'd have been in. Luckily, I had a spare pen, so I gave her the spare pen and got away with it.
Whoa. Wow. You must have been terrified. Like, how did you center yourself throughout that experience?
It's a funny thing, Jason, in that it's very naive, but you have this sort of thought in the back of your mind, well, it's show business, isn't it? It's only pretend, it's only television, and you kind of protect yourself. You have this kind of ludicrous, false, misconceived coat of armor that if it really did kick off, then you'd get away with it, and that is very foolish and naive. And looking back on it, it was much more risky than I anticipated, and I was very, very lucky. When I got home, I went to see my dentist, and he said, what you've been doing for the last few weeks, and he said, well, you've been grinding your teeth in your sleep. You've caused your damage, and that's why you're getting a lot of toothaches. And he said, did you de-roll every night? Did you go back to your hotel and be yourself, be Julian, the TV journalist? And I said, well, I couldn't de-roll because the hotel would have found out I was a journalist and have spread the word, and I'd have been bumped off. So he said, that's very, very dangerous, and your teeth have borne the brunt of the stress you've been under.
Incredible. Well, I thought he was going to ask you whether you'd flossed. Crazy. Amazing stories. You're an author, series producer, teacher with your kind of your venture that you're getting into at the moment. You're teaching media skills to aspiring professionals. You're producer, director, filmmaker. What area do you feel the most confident in?
That's a really good question. I mean, you can say, what do I enjoy the most? And I really enjoy training. I do workshops in media skills, in how to get into the media industries, in camera skills, in research skills, runner skills. I train academics in how to teach online, because that's very much in these days during the global apocalypse. So I've been training lecturers from Maastricht University, Liverpool John Moores, Lancaster Uni, in presentation skills and interview skills, and how to sort of capture an audience and keep an audience, because in this new weird world we live in, and I think this weird world is here to stay, vaccine or no vaccine, we're all TV presenters now. We have to come across well in this box.
This little
teams.
Yeah,
we have to come across well. That's just the reality of it. So job interviews, teaching, lecturing, meetings, presentations, how you come across in this box affects your brand and how people perceive you. And I'm really enjoying doing that. I'm enjoying being at home, because I spent a lot of the last 30 years traveling, being away, and not being, enjoying the comforts of home and being my family. So I'm enjoying working from home. And come 2021, I'll have a decision to make. Do I focus on the training? Do I go back to the world of making documentaries? And if so, in what role? I've been series producing for 25 years now, and that's a long time and a very, very stressful and arduous job. So I'm hoping, fundamentally life's about options and having choices. And having a portfolio career like what I've got is a privilege, because it means in an ideal world you can choose a bit more, your destiny and what you're doing month in, month out. And that's something I'd say to students or anyone listening, and that is, I think portfolio careers are the way of the world these days. You have to accept you might not have a pure television career or a pure radio career or a pure journalism career. You might have to mix and match a little bit and be multi-skilled. And doing that is really enjoyable, actually, because variety is the spice of life, and there's a lot of variety in that kind of career.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think a lot of people, listeners included, they kind of pigeonhole themselves a little bit, but also feel a pressure to have to know exactly what they want to do in their life. And if they haven't worked it out yet, then they feel like they've somewhat failed, for want of a better word. And yeah, I think there is definitely, I'm really pleased you said that, because yeah, I think it's kind of gone at the days, COVID or no COVID, it's gone at the days where you have to be restrictive in your interests. I think so long as you kind of commit yourself to something, rather than try it for 5 minutes and then, switch your perspective or switch your focus, as long as you actually give it, whatever it is, a decent go, I think is something that's super important.
I agree. You need to be very resilient, not take no for an answer, and realize that jobs aren't going to come to you. Your destiny won't come to you. You need to make it happen. So, you need to send lots of emails out, lots of CVs out, really, really work hard. Treat job searching, job hunting as a job in itself. Use LinkedIn, use all the social media sites, just to maximize your chances of having your dream job. One of my enjoyable things the last 6 months has been embracing a lot more social media. I've been on LinkedIn and Facebook for many years, but with the help of some bright young things, I've been really working hard on my social media. So I'm now on LinkedIn, and I'm on Facebook and Reddit and Tumblr and Insta and TikTok, of course, because of my dance moves.
You've got a TikTok? Wow.
At Direct Productions UK. All my social media is at Direct Productions UK. And Shane Warne said that watching me dance was the most entertaining 15 minutes of his life. So
amazing.
I would share my dancing with the wider world.
There's a definite confidence in yourself, but that bravery that you have to have to do that investigative journalism. Can you give us a little insight into kind of what goes through your head when you take up those roles, when you want, why do you find yourself drawn to those kind of projects? Because I see in your body of work, you are kind of drawn to various projects like that. It's
a very interesting question. I mean, just earlier this year, I was making a series for Channel 5 called the mega council estate next door.
Yeah.
One of my tasks as news producer was to find the best estate to film on. And I found one ideal, in my opinion, called the Bemerton Estate in Islington, because it's very close to a lot of very posh houses. And that's what the series is all about, the rich and the poor living very close to each other. And the first day of my recce, some lads came up to me and got rather fruity, as we say. You know, they were worried, basically, that I was photographing their drug deals.
Oh.
And I explained to them that I'm not. I was just doing a recce. I was taking photographs of the estate, and they took my phone off me. And I thought, right, there goes my phone. But I managed to persuade them to give my phone back, which was a surprise.
That's impressive.
And I managed to survive the experience. You know, these 3 or 4 pretty unruly-looking guys. Anyway, bizarrely, the next day I was not, you know, just about 100 yards away, still taking photographs and checking it out. And I bumped into one of them. And he was the politest, most well-spoken sort of 15-year-old you could ever imagine. It was, hello again, how are you? He says, oh, I'm very well, how are you? Taking photographs. I said, yes, photographs. It was just bizarre. This guy was just, you know, so well spoken. Many experiences like that, both life-threatening or American visa-threatening, or just very, very tricky situations. And I've been very lucky to have just ballsed it out and just thought on my feet very quickly and got away with it. And why am I attracted to those sort of programs? To be honest, I'm attracted to that sort of life because I get up to some shenanigans and I'm often where I shouldn't be when I'm just not filming or not working. So I was in the England cricket dressing room at Southampton a couple of years ago. I was in the England cricket dressing room at Leeds 30 years ago. I got into a lot of trouble. So I just like taking risks.
You like going for a wander, hey? Seeing where you can seeing where you can end up.
Have a glass of wine or two. I'm often end up where I shouldn't be.
Fantastic.
Yeah, in India, I was filming that time, and it was for the IPL cricket tournament. And again, I was filming where I shouldn't be filming, and the guy said that I jeopardized a $3 billion television contract. So that's quite a claim to fame, isn't it?
Wow. Were you drinking the wrong beer or something? Were you drinking Kingfisher or something?
I was still cold sober that time, but 2 days later, when I was again filming where I shouldn't be, the owner of that particular cricket team, who's was worried about this contract, almost rugby tackled me to the ground to get my camera off me, and I had a couple of beers that night. I must admit.
I think a lot of us kind of we hold back on where we should be in life, and you have to be confident, I believe, in yourself. I think that confidence is kind of a root for everything. You know, people kind of will look on the TV and think, oh, that person's just lucky to be where they are. But I'm of the feeling that it's just that they have that confidence in themselves. Yeah. Would you agree?
I mean, you know, for example, I went to Cambridge from a state school. And, you know, as a parent, that a lot of the public school students at Cambridge had that kind of confidence somehow bred into them by their schooling. And I think that's something to be aware of. But everybody in television pretty much thinks that they're out of their depth, that they can't really do it, that, you know, so a lot of it is smoke and mirrors. And you get folks saying, I think I finally sussed out how to do this job 30 years in, you know. So people should feel, you know, empowered to give it a go and not to feel intimidated if they do feel at the depth, because a lot of people feel at the depth a lot of the time. It's part of the pressures of the job. And, you know, it's all about passion at the end of the day. People are passionate about creating video content, about creating audio content or asking questions to journalists. If they're passionate about that, that's endearing, and that'll see them a long way. The problem, in my opinion, if you make mistakes and learn from them, that's great. If you make mistakes but don't try and cover them up and blame someone else, then you're fine. So I think youngsters or people of any age really should, you know, feel the confidence to go for it, make mistakes, as long as they're passionate about whatever they're trying to get into. If you're not passionate about it, then find something else to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. How important do you think collaboration is within the creative process? Because you as a person have taken on quite a lot of leadership roles, should I say. I was going to say solitary roles, but I don't think they are solitary roles. Do you enjoy leading a team, or do you just really enjoy the collaboration process? What attracts you to those particular roles?
Oh, that is a very very interesting and thought-provoking question. I've taken on a series producer role many times over the last 25 years. I've series produced, for 40 series now, which in itself puts you into a leadership position. I'm not so sure I'm a particularly good leader, to be honest. In some respects, I think that I work people very hard, and I'm a perfectionist. And some people, don't particularly like that. I can be quite abrasive. It's a very pressurized job, being a series producer, because you need to deliver a very good program in a limited amount of time with a limited budget. The team often isn't big enough, and I'm a Marmite kind of person. So on my teams, I think half I get on very, very well with. People who tune into my craziness and tune into my passion and tune into my perfectionism, and I end up friends for life with many people who are in that category.
Mm-hmm.
But there is another category who I'm sure never want to work with me again, because I am so demanding. And for that reason, I'd say, my leadership abilities are probably, the jury is out on them. But the perfect series producer who can, provide a great program on budget, on schedule, and keep everybody happy above them, execs, commissioners, and, in their teams. That's a lot of boxes to tick.
Absolutely.
And I suspect that there aren't that many who can tick all those boxes. Those that do, fair play to them. So why am I drawn to those roles? I think part of it's the evolution of where, as you go up the career ladder, where you end up. And interestingly, I think the most enjoyment I've had over the last few years has been the directing I've done, where I've not been series producing, where you're just sent out to direct. The edit producing I've done, again, where you're just an edit suite with an editor, having a good laugh with them, and somebody else has taken on the role of series producing. And the most enjoyable thing I've done was the cricket videos I made in India and South Africa, because I love India and South Africa. I love cricket. I love partying, a lot of partying involved. And to be honest, I did everything. I shot it, I edited it, I produced it, asked all the questions. And there's a benefit to doing it all yourself when you're a perfectionist, because you've only got one person to drive.
Yeah.
So, that's a really good question, a thought-provoking question, and there isn't a clear answer on it. It's just that I have sort of landed in that role. What I do enjoy doing is helping people progress. That's the most enjoyable element of leadership and being in charge of production. And I've given, runners their first researcher credits, and researchers their first associate producer credits, and up the ladder. And I just love, mentoring people, helping people progress. And that's the best part of that.
Oh, that's interesting that we kind of got to the mentoring side, because I was wondering whether it was the influence of Duncan or Irene that actually inspired you to be that way with people.
Yeah, Duncan and Irene, and somebody, actually, my producer director in the Philippines called Tim Tate was very generous with credits. I went on to that show as an associate producer, and he insisted I get a producer credit. And so ever since then, he's inspired me to really be generous with credits. That's one thing you can do often as a series producer, is you can't help people's pay a lot of the time, but you can give them an enhanced credit if they've worked very hard for you. So I've been inspired by lots of people, lots of leaders and line managers throughout my career. I've been very lucky with some people I've had to work with. Duncan Dylas, you mentioned there, the head of the science department at Yorkshire Television, gave me my first job. Irene Cockcroft, who was series producer on Jimmy's Hospital series. And just half an hour ago, I was actually looking at adding some content to my website. And I played a bit of Jimmy's, because I'm going to add that to my website. And that music, da 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 da, and it all comes flooding back to you, those those incredible experiences. And I'm still in touch with Irene. Sadly, Duncan's passed away, but I'll always be grateful for him giving my first gig in television, and without which I probably wouldn't be here now. And on all the sort of leaders I've had the pleasure of working with and learning from over the last 30-odd years.
Is that what led you to create your media skills training, like your coaching? Do you think as well? Is that kind of part of like giving back, or were you kind of pushed on or motivated to create it for another reason?
The genesis of me doing my training courses was not 33 years ago, 32 years ago. I got my first job in television with the help of the Cambridge University Careers Office. I was in the right place at the right time. I was actually in the office when YTV called looking for a researcher for the science department, Duncan Dallas's department. So it's thanks to the Cambridge University Careers Office that I got my first job. So as a result of that, since 1988, every year I've given a talk to Cambridge students, and that's getting to television. And then it occurred to me, I think it must be 15 years ago, roughly, that I might as well roll this out and do training courses, because I was getting a lot of people come onto my programs who hadn't got running skills or research skills. That the skills weren't being trained because of the increasing freelanceization of the television industry. So I started doing a training, and I was earning money out of it as well. So it was great. So I was earning money, doing something I enjoyed, and helping people, which is a great combination, of elements. And then from then I rolled it out to Oxford and Leeds and Bradford and Glasgow. So I was doing these courses, and then I was asked to write a book. So I wrote a book called TV and Insider's Guide by Julian Dismore. A must read for anyone that wants to work in.
Absolutely. It's available through your website, right?
Yeah. If people should email me at juliandismore@gmail.com.
Fantastic.
Dismore@gmail.com. It's an ideal Christmas present for all the family if they want to work in television. Or not, actually, it's full of anecdotes. I wrote the book, and then I started doing more talks to try and publicise the book, and also I enjoy giving the talks. But it was quite a schlep driving all the way I live in Norwich, to Manchester and Nottingham, and fly up to Glasgow or to Southampton to give these talks. So, in March, when the shutdown happened, I was editing at the time a series for Channel 5 here at home. And then 2 months in, I delivered it, and I thought, what shall I do now? And then it suddenly occurred to me, I can do my talks and do my courses via Zoom. Completely perfect, because a lot of what I talk about is how to present and come across well on these platforms. So I did, academic courses and student courses on Zoom and Microsoft Teams and WebEx, and they're going really well. And I'm doing a free Zoom talk next week. I think it's Tuesday. At 3 o'clock.
Yep, 2nd of December. Yeah.
That's one, yeah. So I'm giving that to anyone who wants to come along. Just email me at juliandismore@gmail.com. I'll send you a link. You'll go on my list of weekly bloggies. And I'm trying to build my contact space and just build my, what's the right word? My social media. So that, come next year, in an ideal world, I'll be doing half show business, half television and half training. And the more contacts I've got, the more I can roll out those training programs.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's about, you can create some evergreen content off the back of that, right? So you don't necessarily have to be doing live coaching, live calls. You can turn it into a course to make sure more and more people can have access to the expertise. You could have somebody in the Philippines, for example, you're learning from your content whilst you're asleep.
Yeah, well, there's two things to talk about there. One is exactly, I've got my workshops now with the help of Zoom recorded, and I can send those to people who can't actually make the workshop themselves. The other thing is, what's been enjoyable about the last 6 months is the learning. So I've been learning all the time about social media and maximizing hits and hashtags. And today I learned about stories, story on Facebook and LinkedIn, so it's there for 24 hours, but gets more exposure, which I didn't know about until somebody told me. What I also learned is that, for a long time I've been doing these talks where I basically talk for an hour, and I try and squeeze in as much as possible to that hour about how to get into television and job interview technique and CV finessing, and contact generation, and introductory emails, and it's kind of relentless for an hour. And then I gave the talk to York Uni, and one of my old school friends was actually, as a careers officer there, watched it. She said, it's a great talk, but there's only a limit to how long you can listen to a talking head for. And that occurred to me that I should throw more videos into my talk. So what I've been doing is recording videos for YouTube, my YouTube channel, Direct Productions TV, recording videos about running skills, about what different kinds of runner, about CV technique and job interview tactics, recording these videos, breaking up my lectures with these videos, which gives my voice a break and also peppers them up a little bit, and a bit of production value with graphics and music. So it enhances the production value of my talks. And I can use them again and again because, once you've got that content, you can use it in courses, for talks, on the website, on Facebook and LinkedIn and Insta. So it's all a learning experience. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as well, because a lot of the content that you're pumping out there on your YouTube is very concise. You only have like a sort of a 1 minute highlight reel of things to do when you're a runner, starting out as a runner. And what's great about that is it's bite-sized information, so your brain takes it in a little bit quicker, I think, and can be a bit more of a sponge. But also, it's that transferable thing, isn't it? You could very, very easily transfer that same content over to TikTok and stick some music, on the back of it. And it's kind of, sometimes we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to create. People think when you have to create lots of content, it's like I have to create 60 pieces of new content a day. But actually, you can take an idea from one piece and then branch it out into 5 or 6. You can grab a quote from, a 5-minute video that you've created or what have you. Yeah, I think it's really important as well to, I guess, the financial services would call it diversification. It's kind of being omnipresent throughout all of the different mediums.
One thing that's helped me is that to have a system. And, my system is Monday is a blog of the week with tips and suggestions and advice. And then that also goes out to my contacts list of lecturers and students. Tuesday is testimonials. So that's testimonials about my courses or my workshops or my Zoom talks. Wednesday is caption competition, where it's a funny caption from my career, and I've got a lot of photos that you can put humorous captions on, and normally a tip in there as well. Thursday is job adverts, so jobs I'm aware of or work experience opportunities I'm aware of is every Thursday. I put those up. And then Friday is plug of the week. So on Friday I'm plugging a course or I'm plugging a free Zoom talk, or my social media in general. So having that system helps me remember where I'm at and what I'm at. And that helps. And I'm quite enjoying the writing. I mean, how that will work when I'm back in the world of television in 2021, only time will tell. It depends what role I have and how demanding it is. But for the time being, it's great because it keeps me very, very busy, which I like to be.
How important is it to remain creative when the world around you doesn't necessarily facilitate that possibility? You have to kind of think outside the box to be creative.
I think that there is more scope for creativity now than there ever has been. I mean, if you think about when I first joined the world of television, it was so long ago, everything was in black and white. Even my home life was in black and white. But I mean, it was, I joined television in '88 and there were 4 channels, BBC One, BBC Two, ITV, Channel 4, that's it. And so, and a lot of those channels were a bit predictable, I would argue, and, there wasn't much creativity going along. Well, there was, obviously, but, in terms of, there was no non-linear editing for a start, apart from film, which was quite a laborious way of making programs. So, Sky coming on board and then digital and then YouTube. It's a bit of the plethora of channels now to tell your stories and be creative. A plethora of durations, 1 minute programs, Vine, 6 seconds, and then you've still got the long feature-length documentaries and dramas, and then you've got box sets. So I think there's actually more scope for creativity now because of all these different social media platforms and video platforms and Netflix. And it's just people need to be resilient and determined and not give up if they really want to work in this area.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it kind of reminds me of, I remember, I think it was like 2000 and, I'm tempted to say 2012. It might have been a little bit earlier, where there was a film submitted at Cannes where they had filmed the whole thing for something like £20. They'd done a feature-length zombie film for £20, and it required a lot of favors, so they'd called in all of their favors all at once, all of the team, and the £20 was spent on tea and coffee, and it was a zombie film shot from a phone. So the whole thing was it was about a zombie that had he wasn't a zombie, and then he got infected, but his hand was still attached to a video camera or a phone or whatever it was. So it was like a story about his transformation, joining the zombie horde, But
right. There's also that Gareth Edwards one, the District 8 guy? His first film was very similar to that, like 10 grand or something, which did extremely well.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love them to make a sequel to that. A great film. Obviously, I'm mindful of how much time you have left with us today, and really appreciate you giving up your time. But I've got a couple more questions just from our listeners, if you don't mind. Is that okay? Great. So,
sure, yeah.
So our listener question number 1: how do you cope with the stress of meeting new people and being in the TV industry?
One of the things I like about television as a freelancer is that you get to meet lots of different people in your teams. Obviously, part of filming, you're meeting different people, particularly the genre I make, observational documentary, meeting different people all the time. And that's really enjoyable because, as Confucius said, meeting one wise person is better than reading 1,000 books, with the exception of TV and Insider's Guide by Julian Dismore. I must read his industry. No, but seriously, Confucius knew about my book. I'll never know, but he's a very wise man. But I do enjoy meeting a lot of different people, and it's difficult because as a series producer, you're a bit insecure in can folks actually do the job. So that can lead to stresses and strains early doors when I'm waiting for researchers or associate producers just to convince me that I've made the right decision hiring them, or whoever hired them made the right decision, and they can pull their weight, and deliver what I need to get this show made and broadcast. But I've been very lucky to work with some great people. I've become friends for life. And the thing about people in television is that they're a bit like Americans. They're either great or they're awful. That's just the reality of it. And I've got people who work with me who some think I'm great and some think I'm awful. It's just the reality. Even one person can be perceived in different ways. Colleagues who work with them, for them, or under them, or whatever. So I really not sure how I would fare working in a job where it was the same colleagues year in, year out, in a university, in a staff room of a school, or in an army regiment, or whatever it is. I do like that variety of colleagues, and I've been very, very lucky to have benefited from that in terms of, the number of people I can invite to my Zoom quizzes during lockdown, who've had to endure me, as a colleague, and now have to endure my quizzes, sort of thing. It's a really good question, and I'd say it's one of the attractive things about the creative industries is that you get to work with interesting people, passionate people, and generally a variety of people, and that's great.
Fantastic. And to that note, they ask, are you an outgoing person?
Yes, I am an outgoing person. I'm an extrovert. In fact, my school report aged 8 was, they say, don't they, give me a child at 7, I'll show you the man. My school report at 8 said that Julian's extrovert nature often gets him into trouble. And quite interestingly, I think my wife would say exactly the same thing, or my sons, or various bosses over the years would say exactly the same thing. in that my desire to take risks and push the envelope, and not take no for an answer, has got me into scrapes over the years. But it's fair to say that life hasn't been dull as a result of that particular trait, although it has been problematic at times, and has got me into trouble. But life's too short to not take the risk or two.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree more. It's I think it's imperative, isn't it? Particularly if you're working in the creative industries, you got to have that confidence in your abilities. But yeah, you got to have a little bit something different about you, and kind of lean into those strengths that you have. Whereas a lot of society and the other fields may tell you not to. I
don't know. I think it depends what job you're talking about. I mean, for example, a friend of mine went to the city and he took risks, and he's retired several times. He's got so much cash, so I think that's risks. Equally, when I give my talks to lecturers on how to come across well and do online lectures which are captivating and inspiring and invigorating, and the sort of lectures that students look forward to, I'd encourage them to take risks. I mean, I remember my teacher age 10 who changed my life, who was inspiring. I remember a couple of my lecturers who were inspiring at university. So I think risk-taking and again passion, and again a willingness to really bust a gut to make yourself entertaining or fun to work with or fun to listen to, it is generally rewarded. And that my friends who have done best in their careers, and I don't necessarily count myself in this particular category at all. That my friends who have done really, really well or enjoying careers are those that are just fun to work with and a good laugh. And they weren't the brightest, but they're just really amicable people. One of whom's in Australia now, and he's like number 2 to the head of the government in Queensland, because he's just a really nice guy. So I think it's important to remember that nice guys do well, nice people do well. Mm-hmm. And that's a real career attribute.
Fantastic. I love that. That's brilliant. I remember an old lecturer of mine would say to me, that's great, Jason, but be dangerous. They always encourage me to be more dangerous with my choices, that I made in a scene or what have you. And I think it's really valuable advice. Is the job so time consuming that it affects your family, friends, relationships? Now, I've kind of, before they've kind of seen this, I've seen you talk about kind of the stresses of being in Norwich, and you've kind of touched on it today in the interview. But kind of what do you make of that? Isn't it kind of part and parcel of the job that it would be time consuming, and you have to have that in order to make an impact on the industry? Don't you have to have a lot of put a lot of time into your work?
These are really good questions. Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is that you can't really be a clock watcher, I don't think, in the creative industries. If your personality lends itself to, I need a full 1 hour lunch break, I need to be home at 5 o'clock for the chase, then I don't think TV, radio, journalism, etc. for you. You tend to goal orientated, and you want to get the project completed to the best of your abilities. If not better than that, you want to be perfect, because you're passionate about it. And again, I come back to the word passion. Interestingly, early in my career, I'd often be abroad for a month to 6 weeks filming, and then I'd be home in Leeds filming, editing for a month or 2 months, then preparing for the next shoot, and then away for another month to 6 weeks. So that was the dynamic then. But when I was home, I was very, very hands-on dad and demanding husband, so I was certainly around. And now, over the last 10 years or so, it's been different in that I've been living in Norwich. There's not much television in Norwich these days, so I've been travelling on a Monday morning to Aberdeen or Glasgow or Belfast or Manchester or Southampton, or London if I'm lucky. It's only 2 hours away. And then driving back on a Friday night, and that is exhausting. And tiring. And difficult. So one of the reasons why I've enjoyed being in the middle of a global apocalypse is that I've been home for 6 months, and that's made me realise how nice it is to be at home. particularly as the fact we have a disabled son called Daniel, who's amazing. If anyone wants to know more about Daniel, they should watch the CBBC program, My Life, Danny, the Bravest Boy in the World. That's on CBBC. It's on iPlayer at the moment, I still think, because it was repeated recently. And it's just delightful being around him and helping with him, rather than that just being a weekend situation. And that's one of the reasons why next year I'm looking to sort of hopefully, rework my work-life balance to being half telly, which intrinsically is away, unless there's more home working, which hoping there will be as a result of COVID, and half training from home. Because it's just so nice to be at home and to get that work-life balance a little bit better.
A little bit better. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm somebody that kind of, I don't know how good I am at work-life balance. I kind of, when I have a project, I kind of just go ham on it, and I'm like, if it's required for tomorrow, I'll be up until 2 a.m. to get it done. Just to make sure, a little bit like yourself there with being a perfectionist, just to make sure it is the best possible product that the client or what have you can receive. They ask as well, it's kind of like a little caveat to that, is how do you cope with it? Presumably, how do you cope with finding that that balance, I guess? How do you cope with it?
I don't think I've coped particularly well with it, to be honest, in that part of being away Mondays to Fridays is that you can get very, very drawn into working 16, 18-hour days, particularly in the world of television these days, where you just don't have enough money, a big enough team, or long enough as you would like to make the program you want to make. So it's very, very easy to become a workaholic. And indeed, it's very easy to get drawn into working weekends as well. So for a lot of the series I've worked on last 10 years or so, I've had to work weekends. So that is challenging and difficult, and it is hard to get that work-life balance, particularly with mobile phones, the ubiquity of mobile phones and being on the matrix in the network the whole time. Some of these programs you're getting, the old email of hell on a Friday. The contributors dropped. Are really important. I've had it all this year actually. Really important contributors have dropped, or an hour's been shaved off the edit schedule because of this, that, and the other. And that is difficult. It is stressful. But, the point is you've got all these things as a producer that are stressful because you're reliant on things that are outside your control all the time. The presenter not to get too annoyed you're asking for take 10 because you think it can be better than take 4 or 5. You're reliant on the crew not to get too annoyed that they're missing out on a full lunch break again because you're behind schedule. On the contributor not to be too outside their comfort zone that they can't tell you their story. On the kit not to fail despite it being minus 10 degrees centigrade or plus 40 degrees centigrade. On the weather not to rain because you need decent weather for the shot. So you're out on all these things, and that's very, very stressful. But if you can overcome all these things and make a program you're proud of that is watched by millions of people, then what a buzz. There's no job quite like it. And it's all worthwhile. And on that journey to the end point, you've met some great people, you've had some amazing life experiences, and you've earned some money as well, then you can't complain.
You can't complain, can you? I mean, that's the life. That's the life. One thing that I noticed from kind of when I'm doing performing jobs, as it were, is you feel so alive to be on a set. There's something really special about the lights, the smell, that kind of busyness, the busy nature of a set, and the fact that you're creating something that's, once it's done, it's going to be there. It's going to be there, and people are going to view it in 5-10 years time, and there'll be a reaction to it, whatever it be. I think it's such a special industry, the creative industries.
Well, there's that adrenaline buzz, isn't there? I mean, you have some extremely stressful times, and I've had some very, very stressful times, this year, but, like I say, contributors dropping, or I don't know, all the disasters that can happen when making a television program. And occasionally, when I'm plate spinning and trying to fix these problems, I do think to myself, you will miss this when you're retired. You will miss it. Not that I'll retire, television will retire me, that's the great words, but you'll miss that adrenaline rush of getting a problem, contending with it, and ideally solving it. That's the reality of it. It's just part of the package of the job, which seems awful at the time, like foreign filming in jungles when you're chasing snakes and lizards. It can seem really, really horrible at the time, but you look back on it and you think, wow, what a magical time that was.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We've got a quick fire round, and then obviously let you go. But there's a burning question that I've got is, how do you keep on instilling confidence within Daniel? So how do you make sure he's a confident young man?
Well, he's just the most amazing and remarkable child. He has a syndrome called 9p minus, which is Alfie syndrome, which we were told he would never walk or talk when he was first diagnosed 6 months. To be honest, he hasn't actually stopped talking. He did for a while, and then he had an operation at the aftermath, which went very, very badly wrong, which paralysed him from the neck down. And he fought back from that, as anyone watching the programme on iPlayer, Danny, the bravest boy in the world, will see. He fought back from that. And despite going through a horrendous life experience, which is indescribable, he never stopped smiling, never stopped joking. Some of the jokes he tells are just incredible. And he's just the most inspirational and amazing human being that you could hope to know. And I've got the privilege of being his dad and spending a lot of time with him. So I'm very, very lucky indeed.
I love that. You you just didn't take any credit for that at all. You just put it all on Danny. That's great. Okay, so quick fire round, and you're going to tell us whether you're confident or not confident, okay, with regard to these particular elements, okay? Here we go. Best man speech.
Confident.
Parenthood. Tightrope walking.
Not confident.
Skydiving.
Not confident.
Running for Prime Minister.
Confident.
Wild camping in the jungle.
Not confident.
And doing it all again.
But it wasn't as fun.
Right. Doing it all again.
Confident.
Nice.
As far as Prime Minister is concerned, my brother was MP for Hendon between 97 and 2010. Great MP, very hard working, very assiduous. I think if you could combine me, him, and my wife, and Daniel, you'd have a pretty formidable politician. My problem would be just there's too many skeletons in my closet.
Fantastic. At least you're honest.
Yeah.
Well, if you'd like to just take the opportunity, I know you've been telling us all about your projects, but you said it was Direct Productions TV on all social medias.
Yeah, so social media is at Direct Productions UK, and that's Facebook, LinkedIn, Reddit, Tumblr, Insta, of course. What I missed out, TikTok, obviously. My YouTube channel is Direct Productions TV, and that's where you get videos and funny clips and advice and highlights from my programs I've worked on. And to find out more about my courses, go to my website, which is www.directproductions.co.uk, or email me at juliandismore@gmail.com. Dismore as in Dismore to me that meets DR.
So there it is. Another episode comes to an end. Thank you ever so much for listening. There will be many more episodes where we are talking to industry professionals. Reach out to me on anchor.fm/confident performance or on Twitter, JC Wilkinson. That's JASEY Wilkinson. Or on Instagram, Jason Wilkinson 2020. And let me know. You can actually leave a voice message on the Anchor platform. If you listen to this on Spotify, obviously, you won't know that. So go over there. So what else? I am planning on interviewing many more people. If you are interested in being interviewed, get in touch. Let me know what you guys have got out of these so far. If you reach out to me, I will respond, obviously. And we're going to be breaking it up. We won't just be doing interviews. We'll be doing some sort of solo episodes as well. I'm having a lot of fun doing these. Hope you guys are having a lot of fun listening to them. Yep, if you are around and listening to this on the Apple podcasts, do hit me up with a review and a 5-star rating, please. It really helps get the message out there, and it helps other people find it. If you don't, then people won't hear about it. And we want people to learn as much as they possibly can. These guests do have a lot to impart, so it would be a shame to waste their skills and their knowledge. All right, have a wonderful day. Thank you very much for listening.